Welcome aboard. My name is Sharia, and you're listening to a brand new episode of the Aviation Files, the best podcast for all aviation enthusiasts. Today, we've got a jam-packed lineup. United Airlines is rolling out a brand new premium cabin that has passengers buzzing. Russia's homegrown MC-21 jet just flew for the first time in true production form. British Airways is quietly pulling its A380 off one of its most iconic routes. China's COMAC has flown a special high-altitude version of the C919. And we say goodbye to an aviation legend who spent 80 years wrenching on airplanes for American Airlines. Lots to get through, so without further ado, let's begin. First up, let's talk about United Airlines, because they've just unveiled something that has frequent flyers and aviation nerds alike absolutely losing their minds. United is rolling out a heavily reworked, premium-focused cabin on a subset of its Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners. And it's basically the airline throwing down the gauntlet in the battle for the world's best long-haul product. The headline edition is something called the Polaris Studio, a business plus suite that sits in the very first row of each business class cabin. There are 8 of these per aircraft laid out in a 1-to-1 configuration, so everybody gets an aisle seat. And they're roughly a quarter larger than United standard Polaris seats, thanks to a sliding privacy door and much bigger footwell. Each suite comes with a 27-inch 4K OLED screen, said to be the largest in-flight screen on any US carrier, plus wireless charging and enough USB-C ports to power a small office. Passengers in these suites are getting caviar and champagne service, cozy pajamas, and there's even a fold-out ottoman with its own seatbelt so a second person can pull up for a meal or a meeting. But maybe the quirkiest addition is a dedicated walk-up snack bar built right into the business class cabin. Instead of hunting down a flight attendant, passengers can just wander over to a self-service fridge stocked with chilled drinks, snacks, and fresh fruit, all lit with mood lighting that shifts depending on the flight phase. It's essentially eating into space that used to be economy seating or galley storage, which tells you how serious United is about this being a lifestyle product, rather than just a way to move more people. And that's really the story here. United has gone premium heavy, cramming this particular 787-9 with 64 Polaris seats and 35 premium plus seats, which works out to nearly 45% of the whole aircraft being some form of premium cabin. To make room, the airline slashed 65 economy seats compared to standard configuration. Fewer seats overall means a higher fare environment and a bigger carbon footprint per passenger. So it's not without trade-offs, but ultimately, United thinks that ultra-long-haul corporate crowd is worth it. So far, San Francisco to Singapore and San Francisco to London Heathrow are the confirmed routes for this configuration. The reports suggest United is also eyeing several new routes out of Houston for the product this winter. The Singapore run in particular is nearly 8,500 miles, so trimming those economy seats also helps on the weight and fuel efficiency side for one of the longest flights in the airline's network. On top of the cabin overhaul, United is fitting these jets with Starlink-powered Wi-Fi, swapping out the older, laggier satellite systems for low Earth orbit connectivity that should make working or streaming over the middle of the Pacific finally feel realistic. Next, let's hop on over to Russia, because the Yakovlev MC-21 program just hit a genuinely significant milestone. The first serial production standard example of the jet has completed its maiden test flight, taking off from the Irkutsk aviation plant and staying airborne for 1 hour and 23 minutes, reaching just under 20,000 feet. This is a big deal because the MC-21 has had a rough road to get here. The program actually goes back to 2009, and for years the plan was to power the jet with American-made Pratt & Whitney engines. That all fell apart after Russia's 2022 invasion of Ukraine triggered sweeping sanctions, cutting Yakovlev off from Western suppliers entirely. So the version that flew this week, designated the MC-21-310, is powered instead by Russian-built Aviadvigatel PD-14 engines, part of a broader shift towards domestically sourced systems across the aircraft. According to reporting from the Moscow Times, an initial batch of 18 production aircraft is now underway at the Irkutsk factory, a site that Russian President Vladimir Putin reportedly visited last month. The test pilot on this flight said the aircraft performed well and that the full flight plan was completed. Industry watchers say this test flight should help close the gap between certification and actual customer deliveries. As for demand, CH Aviation data points to 384 firm orders for the MC-21 so far, Russian flag carrier Aeroflot leads the pack with 198 of those, Russia has 61, and there are smaller commitments from Red Wings and Air Arrow. It's worth remembering that this jet is essentially Russia's answer to the Boeing 737 MAX and the Airbus A320neo. With the country largely cut off from the Western aviation supply chains, its future customer base looks almost entirely domestic for the foreseeable future. Now, let's swing over to London, because British Airways just made a surprising and fairly abrupt change to one of its most recognizable routes. The airline has been flying the Airbus A380 between London Heathrow and Dubai every winter since 2019, and it had planned to keep doing so for the upcoming winter season. That plan has now changed, and the Super Jumbo is out of the Dubai rotation entirely. Part of the reason ties back to the ongoing war in Iran, which has thrown BA's whole Middle East network into disarray. The airline hasn't flown to Dubai at all since March, shortly after the conflict began, and it's already pushed back the resumption of services to Abu Dhabi and Bahrain until 2027. When Dubai flights do resume in late October, BA had originally planned these 3 daily flights split between 787-10 and A380. Instead, there will only be 1 to 2 daily flights, depending on the week, and none of them will be the A380. It'll be a mix of the 787-10 and 777-200ER instead. Zooming out a bit, British Airways is also cutting back its overall A380 flying this winter by around 28%, which is enough to knock it from the world's third largest operator of A380 flights down to just 6th. That's mostly because the airline is in the middle of retrofitting its 12-strong A380 fleet, trimming the seat count from 469 down to 421 to make room for more business suites and premium economy seats. So this winter, the type will only serve 4 destinations from Heathrow: Miami, Johannesburg, San Francisco, and come September, Singapore again, down from 6 destinations in the winter before. Meanwhile, on the Dubai route specifically, Emirates remains the dominant player, running 12 daily flights across London's 3 airports and putting the A380 on 9 of those come December. So, while BA is stepping back from the Super Jumbo on this route, Emirates is doubling down on it. Now, let's head to China, where another non-Western plane maker, COMAC, has notched another milestone for its C919 program. This week, the company flew the maiden test flight of the C919-600, a shortened, high-altitude variant of its now familiar narrow-body. The flight lasted just under 2 hours, taking off from and returning to Shanghai Pudong International Airport, and COMAC described it as an important step in the aircraft's ongoing development. What makes the Dash 600 different is that it's purpose-built for airports sitting on high plateaus, of which China has several. The fuselage has been shortened by 6 frames, bringing capacity down to somewhere between 140 and 160 passengers, compared with up to 192 on the standard C919 variants. COMAC is developing this version specifically alongside Xizang Airlines, formerly known as Tibet Airlines, which flies out of Lhasa, an airport that sits well over 11,000 feet above sea level. So thinner air and shorter runways make a lighter, more efficient jet a genuine necessity rather than just a must-have. Right now, Xizang Airlines is the only carrier that's ordered the C919-600, but it's ordered a substantial 40 of them. On the broader C919 program, China Eastern and China Southern remain the biggest customers of the standard variant, with roughly 100 aircraft on order between them, and there are reportedly undisclosed orders for several hundred more jets on top of that. COMAC is also reportedly working on a stretch version of the C919-800 that could seat up to 240 passengers, so clearly the plan is to build out a full family to rival the Airbus A320 and Boeing 737 lineups, plateau airports included. And finally, today we want to take a moment to remember someone rather than something. American Airlines mechanic Azriel Al Blackman has passed away at the age of 100, closing out a career that spanned more than 80 years with the airline and its predecessor. Blackman holds the Guinness World Record for the longest career as an airline mechanic, and by any measure, his story is unlike anything else in commercial aviation. He started in 1942, at just 16 years old, joining American Export Airlines, American's predecessor, as an apprentice in the sheet metal shop, earning 50 cents an hour and needing his mother's permission just to take the job. His earliest work involved maintaining Sikorsky flying boats out of a LaGuardia's Marine Air Terminal, which sometimes meant wading into Flushing Bay to secure seaplanes before they could be hauled in for servicing. From there, he worked on practically every aircraft type American Airlines ever flew, all the way through to the Boeing 777. In 2017, to mark his 75th anniversary with the company, American decided an entire Boeing 777-200 in his honor, registration N751AN, which mechanics affectionately nicknamed 7BK. He kept working for another 5 years after that, hitting the 80-year mark in 2022. Even late in his career, though his shift technically started at 5 a.m., he'd typically show up before 3 a.m., simply because he loved being in the hangar with his colleagues. American Airlines called him a true aviation legend whose mentorship shaped generations of maintenance technicians, and it's hard to imagine anyone else in the industry ever matching a career quite like his. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, and do make sure to support the Aviation Files however you can. And don't forget to check out my Insta at the Aviation Files for more fun and exciting news. Until